Okay.
Hello, all of you wonderful people. Thank you for joining us at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Not quite near the end, but we're getting there, aren't we? Busy day and a half. I'm sure you've had a great time, as I have had. Very happy to welcome to TESOL again a pretty well known face, Professor Marc Hegelsen. He is the author of more than 150 professional articles, books, and textbooks, including English firsthand. He does a lot of teacher development workshops. He's worked on 5 continents at least, I think. He's been to Korea several times. He's a professor at Miyagi-Gakuin Women's University in Sendai. He teaches a couple of other courses at other places. He's the chair of the Extensive Reading Foundation, and he's got a couple of websites on the go, one of which I will link to, which is called ELT and Happiness.
Thank you.
And that's germane because that's what we're going to talk about, or what he's going to talk about today, happiness. So without further ado, Marc, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Michael, and thank you. I know Dave is here, and thanks everybody who's doing so much, and thank you to all the participants for being here. And I'm really excited for a lot of reasons. I'm delighted to be back at TESOL after a few years away. Just wish it was actually face to face. Hope it is next time. And I'm very, very excited about our topic, which is the science of happiness in your class and in your life. And let me go to my PowerPoint because I think that's more interesting than looking at me. So let me pull that up. And okay. So as I said, thank you for being here. I'm very excited about this. Science of happiness. I'll explain more what I mean by that. But basically, I mean positive psychology. Yeah. And what that is and what that can be in our classroom. And why positive psychology in English class? Well, a number of reasons just to start out, but for starters is every one of us deals with educational psychology every day. We're either dealing with it consciously or we're dealing with it by default, but we're dealing with it. So isn't it better to be aware? We know that happy students have increased well-being, and that in turn means they learn more, they learn better, increased academic achievement. And notice that this particular slide, the reference is Harvard Graduate School of Education. So this is some heavy duty research. And yeah, happy students do learn more. And by the way, in a minute, I'm going to give you the source for all of the research references that I'm going to use so you can follow up if you're interested. But lest it sounds like this is all sweetness and light, positive psychology prevents clinical depression and anxiety. And I'd like you to notice 2 things about this slide. Number one, at the bottom, the reference, this is Martin Seligman, who's one of the founders of positive psychology. He was also is chair of the positive psychology lab at University of Pennsylvania, which is a very highly respected institution. He's a highly respected academic, and notice the word he's using. It prevents clinical depression. Prevents is causative. It is not just that it correlates, right? He is saying this actually makes a difference in stopping depression. Now, why is this so important? Well, you all teach, most of you teach in Korea, I teach in Japan, and let's talk about, let's start off positive psychology by talking about depression. specifically among your students. The number one cause of student death in Korea is suicide. And sadly, Korea has the highest rate of suicide in the developed world. And the numbers have been rising during the pandemic. Junior high and senior high students in Korea have a reported depression rate of 28.2%. That is huge, right? And I live in Japan. We have similar problems, similar numbers, and basically every country that has super high stakes testing, this comes up, and it is epidemic. Now I came across a quote. This is not from Korea, but it fits, I think. Talking about student depression, not having a best friend is the largest factor of depression, and it might have a greater influence than family. And you know how important family is in Korean culture. Having a best friend. The speaker before me was talking about friendship and how the ELT classroom ought to be doing that. And I couldn't agree more. It is really essential to what we're doing. If you're interested in depression, I'd like to mention the JOLT Mind, Brain, and Education Special Interest Group. Our website is mindbrained.org. And December of 2020, we did a special issue on depression. And this is depression in language teaching. What do we do about it? The magazine is free. We do a monthly magazine. A few months before that, we did one on positive psychology. Please go there if you're interested. Lots of resource. Final opening point is, we know from research, happy students build relationships, build friendships better. And that lends itself to communication, but it lends itself to all of the things we're trying to do in our language classrooms. Now, what is positive psychology? Well, one definition is that it's the study of flourishing or optimal functioning of people, groups, and institutions. That's Gable and Jonathan Haidt, and that's a nice academic definition. The definition I like a little better is from Chris Peterson, University of Michigan, who said it's the study of what makes life most worth living. And that is something certainly worth studying, certainly worth researching. And that's what we're talking about. A couple of things that positive psychology is not. Number one, and Tammy Gregerson mentioned this yesterday, it is not happyology. Okay, we're not talking Disneyland here. It is also not the power of positive thinking. And I consciously left in that obnoxious squeak to remind you that's not what we're talking about. We're talking science. We're talking hard research. Even though it's a soft science, it's a social science, but we're talking hard research, peer-reviewed research, replicated experiments. We're talking all of the standards of a science, okay? And I was doing a workshop on this topic just a couple of months ago, and somebody said, oh, I'm sorry, before I get there, Michael mentioned eltandhappiness.com. If you go there, I've made a website for this particular presentation that has links to all of the research as well as some activities. Okay, a couple of months ago, I was doing a workshop on this, and somebody said, actually a psychologist in the audience said, well, you're not really talking about psychology because you're not dealing with the negatives. And as I said, this is not happyology. This is not power of positive thinking, but positive psychology does not ignore the problems. Okay. Tal Ben-Shahar, who was teaching at Harvard, said the only people who don't experience pain are psychopaths and the dead. Take your pick, right? It's not, that's just not going to happen. So in kind of response to that comment, I made a web page called This Ain't Happyology. So it's about using positive psychology when life sucks the energy and joy out of your job, your soul, your whole existence. And basically what I did is made a whole bunch of links to problems, over 40 easy to understand, which means you can use them with students, science-based strategy to deal with the negatives, things like isolation and loneliness, love and romance, job crafting. What do you do when your job sucks, basically? How to savor, and depression. And I particularly like this meme. The figure, the blue figure on the left is what people think depression feels like, and it just shows sadness. And the figure on the right is what depression is actually much more like. Sadness is part of it, as is self-loathing, anxiety, hopelessness, but a big part of it is feeling nothing. And I use this particular meme with my students, and it's a way to start the conversation about something that's usually a taboo, that we usually don't talk about. So these resources are there for you at the website. I hope you check it out. Okay, now on to the positive stuff, the science of happiness in your class and your life. First day of class, you all just started the semester a couple of months ago. I started about a month ago. So early on, and I was thinking, so how am I going to start things off right? And I came across something that's been making the rounds on a lot of social media sites that just ask the questions, what do you do when someone says you're beautiful? And I thought, this is interesting. So I start off with, your smile is beautiful. Now, some of you are going to be really skeptical about this. Two things you should know. Number one, I teach at a women's university, and the atmosphere is really good. Okay, so I think I would be hesitant to use in a co-ed university, but it works with my students. If it doesn't work with yours, I'll get to how you might modify it. But basically, we started out with the idea, number one, defining beautiful is that's much more than being attractive. It's your soul, among other things. And then let's smile and let's learn each other's names. This is the first class, although you can use it basically anytime. And what happens when somebody says you're beautiful? I invite my students to make a camera lens with their fingers, go up to someone and say, you're beautiful, and say their name. And for example, you're beautiful, Mai, and what does she do? She probably says, thank you. Now, we are all wearing masks these days, so it's more like, you've got beautiful eyes, Mai, but she'll say thank you to that too. And we go down the list, and you're beautiful, Nina, thank you. You're beautiful, Emmy, thank you. You're beautiful, Jojo, thank you. And you do this with everybody and walk around the room, introduce yourself, and then how many names do you remember, right? Say you're, and then I'm sorry, we use the PowerPoint as the introduction, and then they actually do it in the room. And then at the end, how many names can they remember? Now, if that is, let me go through here. If that's too direct, if you can't see yourself telling your students they're beautiful or inviting them to say that to each other, you can always just change it to compliments. You have a beautiful smile, Mai. Thank you. Nice scarf, Nina. Thank you. You always make me laugh, Jojo. Thank you. You've got beautiful hair, Kate. You're really kind, Emmy, etc. Now, and just for your information, number one, you can download this PowerPoint. Number two, both sets, the You're Beautiful and Beautiful Smile, Nice Scarf, are on the same PowerPoint. So if you're trying it and the feeling isn't what you want, just keep going and you'll get to the compliment part of it. Okay, so that's just a way to start things off. In my class, it was a wonderful way to start the year off right and to get them to start to know each other's names. Now, The Science of Happiness, I stole the name from Time magazine. This was actually my introduction to positive psychology about 15 years ago. And in it, Sonia Lubomirsky, who's University of California, Riverside, wrote an article where she identified 8 things that happy, mentally healthy people do. Their behaviors, physical behaviors, but also cognitive behavior. And being an English teacher, I turned it into a dictation. And those of you who have been coming to TESOL for a while may have done this activity before. Now, the way I do it in class is I usually give everybody a worksheet and a slip of paper that has one sentence on it. Now, that's probably too small for you to read, so let me blow up the sentences. They look at their slip of paper, write down the one sentence they have. For example, number 2 says, do blank things. Let's do kind things. Can I ask you to read this? Take about 30 seconds. See which ones you can guess what that slip of paper would say. And if you want to turn your mic on and just throw out answers, you're welcome to. Say something to people who help you. Say thank you. Take time for friends and family. Forgive people who hurt you. We could keep going, but let me go through to the answers. Remember good things in your life. Remember when you were a kid and your mother used to say, count your blessings? Well, from a science point of view, she was right. Happy people remember good things in their life. Happy people take the time to say thank you. Happy people do kind things. And it's ironic. You say thank you, that person feels happy, but you do too. You do something kind, that person's happier, but so are you. And we're trying to create this positive spiral. Take time for friends and family. And I feel really sad every time I walk into a McDonald's or a Starbucks and I see people, especially young people, sitting together, ignoring each other, and just playing with their telephones. And I want to tell them, put away your phone. When you're with your friends, be with your friends. Learn to forgive. Do your students do stupid things? Can you show of hands? Yeah, of course they do. I mean, many of us work with young people, and I'm not saying young people are stupid, but most of us work with teenagers, and the teenage brain is not fully developed. Parts of it are. The hippocampus and the amygdala is fully developed by age 15. The amygdala is the part of the brain that deals with fight, flight, or freeze, that deals with anger, right? Fully developed by age 15. So by age 15, you can get as angry as you're ever going to get in your life. But the prefrontal cortex, the front of your brain, the executive part, is not completely developed till age 25. Which means young people are going to make some bad choices. I mean, so do older people, just often they're less noticeable, right? And I tell my students, yeah, you make some choices, learn from it, but don't beat yourself up. Yeah, forgive yourself as part of forgiveness. Stay healthy. Aerobic exercise 3 times a week can be as strong in dealing with depression as psychiatric drugs. Notice good things as they happen. Yeah, that's mindfulness. Learn to deal with problems. And there are lots and lots of ways. Being part of a group, religion, meditation, find something that works for you. And when I first came across Lubomirsky's list, what occurred to me is, well, we're English teachers. We deal with a lot of this stuff anyway. I mean, remembering friends and family and staying healthy, those are topics in a lot of ELT textbooks. Remembering, that's past tense, that's grammar. So is noticing, um, present. Forgiving and saying thank you are language functions. So if we're dealing with most of this anyway, this gives us a chance to go so much deeper than the usual, who's your favorite movie star? What's your favorite sport? Now, what I'd like to do is a quick activity. Can I ask you to I give students a minute or so to do this. Can I ask you to do it in about 30 seconds? How many question words can you write down? Any kind of question words, WH words or any other. And Michael, if you can set up the breakout rooms, because we're going to go into this groups of 3, if that's possible.
Already
Okay.
done.
Okay, wonderful, thanks. So a lot of you started off with WH words because we're English teachers. That's where we started when somebody says question words. Other words is, are, do, did, etc. are fine. Now, we're going to do a savoring activity. Savoring to attend to, appreciate, and enhance positive experiences. This combines remembering good things, noticing good things they happen, and introduces anticipation. And we put the 3 together and we have savoring. And the activity is called 3 minutes for positivity. We're going to do it in about 1 minute. But what I'd like you to do is think on your own. What is an experience that you really, really enjoyed? And something that you're okay talking to a stranger about. I'd like you to tell about that experience and then partner, ask as many WH questions, as many questions, any kind of question as possible. I give my students 1 minute of think time to think, what do I say? How am I going to say it? But we're going to speed through that and go right into the breakout room. You'll have about 1 minute each. Talk about that experience you really, really enjoyed, and partner, ask as many questions as possible. So let's do 2 minutes total. Michael, can you go to the breakout rooms? Can I invite everybody to join quickly and start talking?
They're open, Mark. We have one group that has 4 people instead of 3.
That's okay.
But yeah, all the other rooms have 3 people. I
Okay,
assume
fine.
that you and I would stay here.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Although
And
you're welcome to go if you want.
no, I'll stay here. Ian and Alex who are still in this room, if you want to talk to each other, you're certainly welcome to. Michael, how long's the timer set for closing the rooms?
1 minute it should be. So I've got my timer's on for 1 minute, and then I'll close the rooms.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I've been putting links up into the chat as you go through, as
Oh,
specific as I can, and added some other ones for people
great.
that are specific to Korea.
Okay,
So we'll
wonderful.
have them. Oh, David's already done.
Okay.
Maybe he left and now he's back again.
Okay. They have about 30 seconds left, right?
About that, yeah. Less than that.
Okay. And we're all coming back. Can you close them immediately? They've still got a minute left.
Well, did the timer for a minute, and then now there's another minute for them to close. So I kind of incorporated that because you wanted them to have 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You can close it so that it gives them no time. I think you
Uh-huh.
can.
Okay, well, it's 24 seconds, so we'll just stay with that.
Yeah, this will give them a chance to give them to get their whole 2 minutes.
Right.
Okay, they should all be back now.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Now, I hope you had enough time to talk a little bit to your partner. And when my students do this, I ask them to check off the question words that they use. Okay, now there were two things going on, one of which you were probably aware of. The question words is a discourse strategy. That's how you keep a conversation going, by asking follow-up questions. But probably if you and your partner actually talked about that good experience, how do you feel right now? Hopefully pretty good, because you were re-experiencing that happy time. And positivity is not about more and more and more and more positive experiences. That's hedonism, and that usually doesn't have a great result. It's about more and more experience of positive emotion, and re-experiencing counts. Okay, so asking the questions was a discourse strategy, but the positive psychology strategy was what's called an active constructive response. Yeah. And how an active constructive response is this: how we respond makes all the difference in the world. Let's say you and your partner just got a job promotion. And I don't know if that means, your partner in an English class pair work, or if it means your life partner, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But somebody just got a job promotion and they tell you, and an active constructive response, you say, wow, great, tell me all about it. A passive constructive response is, wow, great, that's nice. And it doesn't really go anywhere. And sometimes we're actually destructive. Passive destructive is like, that's nice, what's for dinner? Or an active destructive response, geez, now you're going to be even busier than you are now. How we respond makes a difference. And I find it useful to teach this to my student as a conscious way to keep the conversation going in a positive way. Now, there's a handout of 16 of these topics, which happens to be the number of weeks in my semester, but that way I can use this as a warm-up activity. And on the right, it explains how to take it a little deeper. I promised in the abstract to talk a little bit about time confetti. Yeah, because this will surprise some of us, because we all feel we got too much to do. We don't have enough time for it. Dr. Laurie Santos, she's a psychologist at Yale. She's also the host of the Happiness Lab, which is a podcast I recommend. Says people feel time famished. Now, here's the interesting thing. People actually have more free time now than they did 5 or 10 years ago. But it's broken into what she calls stupid little chunks. We got 3 minutes till our next Zoom lesson, or 5 minutes till our next meeting, or whatever it is. We have all these useless little bits of time that we don't make good use of. What could you do in that 3 to 10-minute chunks, those little bits of time that very often we waste? Okay. Can I ask you to take about a minute each? We're not going to go into breakout rooms for this. Take about a minute and write down some ideas. Keep in mind, the ideas are to make you happier, not to make you more productive. Trying to be more productive is what got us into this myth of multitasking problem in the first place. I write down things like, go for a walk outside. 3 minutes. Maybe it's not even outside. Outside, it's just in the hall. Have a cup of soup. Where I live, it's a little colder than it is in Korea, so it's still soup weather. We had a little bit of snow yesterday. But if it's getting warm, have ice cream. Listen to a song that'll make you happy. Stretch or go for an exercise. Actually, on this, go for a walk. I figured out the ice cream machine closest to my office is 2 minutes and 45 seconds from my office. So I can walk there, buy an ice cream, and go back to my office all within just over 5 minutes. Now, 1 minute on your own, please write down some ideas. And if you can write them in chat, that would be great. Stretch, dance, sing a song, get a cup of coffee. Nice. Thank you, Andre. Hug your wife. Great. Text a friend. Ask them how it's going. Interesting. We'll get to cell phones later. Play with your cat. Call your mom and dad. Look at my plants. Read a poem. Okay, you heard about this. Great. Read a book. Talk to your dog. Okay, we got some wonderful ideas. I will, if it's okay with you, put these onto my webpage after the presentation. I'll copy them, but you get the idea. These are short things, easy to do things. You can do them in these tiny bits of time. A couple I'll mention, because I mentioned things outside of class as well as in class. The grocery store closest to my house, when I walk in, on the left, there's a bakery. And a lot of times, even if I don't need to buy bread, I just go into the bakery and inhale just to smell that wonderful smell of fresh bread. And on the other side, that's on the left, on the right side is a flower shop. And I go there and just inhale just to smell the flowers. And I don't know for sure, but I think I end up buying flowers and buying bread more often than I would otherwise, just because it's such a good experience. So just noticing little things that make you feel good, make you feel happy. Just smiling. Just the act of smiling. I'd like to try something. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, because if your camera's on, you'll probably feel self-conscious. But I'd like you to close your eyes and smile for about 30 seconds and notice the feeling in your body. Big smile. Maybe take a deep breath. How do you feel right now? Probably you got a shot of endorphin there, because smiling does that. Endorphin is the body's natural painkiller. And just smiling will give you that feeling. Breathing. I encourage deep breathing. And by deep breathing, I actually mean yoga breathing, but I call it deep breathing because there's no particular nuance attached to deep breathing, whereas for some students, yoga might sound like not them. And I encourage my students to do deep breathing anytime they want to control their feelings, but their emotions, but especially things like test time, especially big tests, TOEIC, TOEFL, things like that, right? Or I teach a lot of presentation classes. Before a presentation, everybody's nervous. There's nothing wrong with that. Deep breathing to control yourself, or before job interviews. And the way I teach them is, number one, out through the mouth, in through the nose, because your mouth is bigger than your nostrils. So you want to expel as much old funky air as possible. Your lungs hold about 2 liters of oxygen, of air, and each time you breathe, it's 350 to 500 cc's. So you want to get rid of as much as possible. And the way I ask them to do it is out for the count of 6, hold for the count of 5, in for the count of 4, hold for the count of 5. The numbers don't actually matter, but the ratio, breathing out more than you're breathing in, does. Let's try this a few times. Again, you may want to close your eyes, and I'll breathe in a noisy way so you can follow me, but you just do whatever's natural. So out, hold, hold, in, hold. Last time. So how do you feel right now? Probably more relaxed than you did before. Did anybody notice that I slowed down? The first round was much faster than the last round, just as I started to naturally relax. Yeah. Now, if you don't usually do this, you probably feel a little dizzy right now. So I tell my students, if you're going to use this for a test, practice, because you feel really stupid if you like get dizzy. I mean, the nice thing about deep breathing is you can do it privately in public. You can do it in a room full of people and nobody's going to know that you're doing yoga breathing or doing deep breathing. Okay, a couple other things you can do. Exercise. I know that 2 years ago when COVID started, there's a Facebook group for teachers in Korea, and I'm a member of that group. There's also one for teachers in Japan, and I'm a member of that group. One of the guys who runs the Japan group is Jose Domingo Cruz, who's this guy in the picture. And most of us, when students go into breakout rooms, most of us are jumping between rooms trying to find out what's going on, and that never works particularly well because logistically. But Jose doesn't do that. He does burpees, physical exercise, while his students are in breakout rooms, just to do exercise. Because remember, taking care of your mind and body, that's part of it. And I do something similar with exercise in my own classrooms. I call energy breaks. And energy breaks are physical activities, less than 5 minutes, that in the way I do it, it involves physical activity and usually some language and a little bit of brain science, but written at a level that students can process. And I'd like you to actually do something, because you all been sitting down for about 40 minutes now, and that makes a difference. I'd like to introduce an activity from Wendy Suzuki, who's a neuroscientist at New York University. And okay, I'm going to ask you to actually physically do this activity. You've been sitting down most of the day. and at least the past 40 minutes. So can I ask you all to stand up, right? And keep in mind, please turn on your camera if you can. That's just so I know you're actually standing up, and listen to Dr. Suzuki, do what she does, repeat what she says. Okay. I'm going to start off with some brain science. A single physical workout increases dopamine, which is sort of the magic neurotransmitter, the chemical that does everything good. Serotonin, which is the happiness chemical. Noradrenaline, which is a mood builder, mood increaser. It increases your ability to shift and focus attention, and increases your reaction time. Now, long-term workouts, remember I said 3 times a week, 20 minutes each, it increases the volume of brain cells in the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is where long-term memory happens, where memory goes from short-term to long-term. It increases attention and positive mood, and it protects your brain, your hippocampus, from aging. Okay, this is Dr. Suzuki. Watch, do what she does, repeat what she says. Here we go. Oops, there we went. Hi. Okay.
But it's one thing.
All right. If you go to this URL, tinyurl.com/ELT-physical, there's a whole bunch of physical activities, including 16 of those energy breaks. So again, that happens to be the number of weeks in my semester, but you can do things regularly. Lisa, I'm glad your camera was off too. Did you notice the change in your body? People sometimes say, why would you waste your time in English class? We don't have enough time anyway. Why would you waste time having them do something that's not particularly language related? Well, yeah, Chloe just wrote, I feel energized. Exactly. I find that's a great use of student time. It's great use of my time as a teacher to get the energy level up. One thing I don't suggest, this came up in one of the suggestions. One thing I don't suggest is checking your phone, because most of the time when you're checking your phone, Dave mentioned sending a text to a friend. That's a nice thing to do. But one reason we check our phones too much is FOMA, fear of missing out. Yeah, even though it's not real. I mean, the iPhone people or the Samsung people and the software people, the reason they're zillionaires is because they are masters at stealing our attention. And that's what happens every time you look at your phone. Those are distracting activities. That's why we do them. And then it's harder to get back on track. And I also point out, and I hope I'm not offending anybody here, but you're not the president. You're not Batman or Wonder Woman or Superman. The point is, none of us are that damn important that we have to have the information right now. I'm sure that the presidents have somebody who gives them important information immediately, right? Batman has Commissioner Gordon. You know, if we don't find out until later, that's okay. You don't need to know right now. Okay, I want to finish so we have at least a little bit of time for discussion and questions. Gomez, Chloe just said, I think sometimes when you check your phone, it creates more anxiety and make you more unsettled depending on what you're looking at. Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's what, there's so much negative stuff on your phone because that gets the clicks, right? So just trust me. for those 2 to 5 minutes, just leave your phone alone. After starting to study positive psychology, I changed my email habits. So my email doesn't buzz every time I get an email. I check like a couple times a day, and that's enough. Like I said, I'm not that important. Once more, the URL that has all kinds of links for you, go to eltnhappiness.com. The first link on the left is the Science of Happiness. That's the link for this presentation. There are a couple of other links for Time Confetti and the This Ain't Happyology. And I want to say thank you very much. I want to tell you one other thing before I actually finish. I think Dave Schaefer is the only other person in the room who actually knows about this. It was really touch and go whether I would be able to be here today. Remember I said at the very beginning, this ain't happyology, and part of positive psychology is dealing with negatives. Well, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. And a couple of weeks ago, my mother-in-law was hospitalized, and it's terminal. Last Thursday, I think it was, the doctor said she's got 1 or 2 more days. Now, I had already arranged for one of my grad students to do this presentation in case I couldn't. Anyway, we've been waiting. Saturday morning, we talked to the hospital. They said, no change. It's like, well, when you say that you got 1 or 2 days, she's got 1 or 2 days left and there's no change. Anyway, I'm here because my mother-in-law is still with us. And I just want to encourage you to take the time to tell the people that you love them, because you're never sure when you're not going to have another chance. And I really, really encourage you to take the opportunity to tell people that you love them. Thank you all for your time. I think we still have a couple of minutes. Do we, Michael?
I think we can take a couple of minutes if there are some burning questions, of course.
Thank you, Lindsay, for your comment. But the whole thing, this is, it's hard, but it's part of the cycle.
I love you, Soo-young.
Great. I don't think I've ever had anybody yell that during a presentation before. Thank you, whoever that was.
That was me. Come here.
Okay.
She's mortified now. That was me. And,
she's probably wondering what the heck's going on. Anyway, hi.
Yep. She is quite often with me.
Okay. So a question that somebody wrote early. Well, any questions right away?
No, I was just going to say most of us live far away from a lot of our family members. So call your family today.
Good. That's why we have Skype, right? Or Zoom for that, whatever you're using. Somebody asked earlier, I noticed the question, but didn't respond. Our teenage, I mentioned the teenage brain developing more, the parts of it, it's not fully developed, right? So different parts develop at different speeds. Are they equipped to handle all the emotions, etc.? And the short answer is no. That's why they do stupid things. That's why there's higher teenage rates of lots of bad things, drug problems, pregnancy, all this kind of stuff, because they're not as mature. And so teaching them, take responsibility for what you do, but don't beat up on them, because it's like the brain's not going to develop it. Like yelling at them is not going to help. Talk to them about brain development. If you're working with teenagers and this is an issue, go to that mindbrain.org website. And a couple of years ago, we did a special issue on the teenage brain. And there's some good articles that will give you some information. And I talk about it with my students. I mean, like I say, that's how your brain works. And so just recognize that. I should probably quit talking. You all have my email. I'm going to try before we close this down to copy your your suggestions and put them onto my website. But anyway, thank you all so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your conference, and take care.
Big happy round of applause for Marc. Marc, thank you so much. And just to echo Lindsay's comments, I hope that everything goes as well as can be expected for you. Thank you so much for taking your time to be with us again, and hopefully we'll see you yet again later on. For the rest of you, I think what we're going to do is just get ready for the next session. We're almost there, a few more hours to go. Grab a cup of coffee. Don't text anybody on your phone. Be happy. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Okay. A good health rule is no coffee after 3 o'clock. So drink your coffee really, really fast.
Gotta go. Bye.